Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to the second City Commission meeting today, but the Tuesday, June 9th City Commission meeting. We are trying something we haven't tried for a while, which is to have the public comment. Obviously, that's why you're here, general public comment. And we have from 5 to 5:45 set aside for that. I'll read this little blurb I always read, and then I'll make a few comments. The public is allowed to speak on issues or items not scheduled for discussion on the agenda. Comments should be limited to issues and items germane to the business of the governing body. The Commission will not discuss or debate these items, nor will the Commission make decisions on items presented during this time. Members of the public will be limited to 3 minutes. Just, to be clear, there's three things, there's several things on the agenda tonight which would not be part of the public comment. Those on the regular agenda would be the 711 New Hampshire, the Locust Street property, and the 714 Vermont, as well as the issue related to the 1059 and the Beacon Landing project. So those would not be subject to the open public comment. If everyone speaks for 3 minutes, we have only 15 people can speak. And so I also have to check, and if anyone is on Zoom that would like to speak during the open public comment, please raise your hand and I'll see if we can balance that out. Obviously, if people take less than 3 minutes, we can get more speakers in. And so with that, we'll start and appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you can raise and lower that if you'd like to. There's a button there to raise.
Oh, the desk.
Raise the.
Thank you, though.
Okay.
Okay, Jane Cotita, 66049, and resident of Lawrence for 2.5 decades. Members of the City Council, I'm speaking tonight in light of the recent press release announcing the hiring of a new city manager with an annual base salary of $330,000. In that announcement, it was stated publicly that the number one goal for the first year is to help stabilize our long-term finances. That is a goal I believe everyone in this room and in this community supports, but words like that carry weight and they demand consistency between what we say and what we do. On May 5th, the preliminary 2027 operating budget was presented. On July 7th, this council will consider the proposed budget. And once again, departments across the city are being asked to make cuts to close a deficit. That means reduced services to the people of Lawrence. It means fewer resources where they are already stretched thin. And most importantly, it means layoffs. Real people, real employees, many of them in support roles that keep this city functioning every single day. These are not the highest paid employees. These are not the top 250 earners. These are the frontline and support staff, the individuals who answer phones, maintain facilities, support operations, care for our parks and public spaces, and clear fallen trees and debris so first responders can get through, ensuring that basic city services continue to run. So I ask you to consider the message being sent. At the same time that we are preparing to eliminate positions and reduce services, we are also significantly increasing compensation at the very top of the organization. That contrast is not theoretical, it is visible and it is felt. It affects morale, it affects trust, and it affects how seriously the public can take our stated commitment to fiscal responsibility. If stabilizing long-term finances is truly the top priority, then that principle must be applied consistently across all levels, not just at the bottom. As you move toward the July 7th budget discussion, I urge you to weigh these decisions carefully. Think about who is being asked to absorb the impact of these cuts. Think about the long-term consequences of reducing frontline capacity, and think about whether the choices being made reflect the values that this community expects from its leadership. Fiscal responsibility is not just about balancing numbers, it's about fairness, credibility, and shared sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Good evening, Council. My name is Daniel Lowing, resident here in Lawrence. This is a matter of public safety. Concerning the Jayhawk Watershed Project, which is a $23 million thing. A citywide warning should be issued at once to be aware when large rain events occur that the stormwater sewer manhole covers could be dislodged coming down on Tennessee Street. The area affected will be along the construction site, 9th Street to Louisiana to 8th Street and down onto Tennessee, down to the swimming pool. It would have been on April 26th and 27th, there was a 0.57 inch rain, and then on Monday there was a 2.797 rain. So it was a total of 3.5 inches. The new ducts work very good, almost too good. And the speed of the water coming out of the new stadium, shooting down 9th Street, turning and heading down Louisiana is so strong that when it hit the intersection at Louisiana and 8th Street, the water's not going to say, well, I have to make a right-hand turn and head to the swimming pool. It hit the wall and blew a 5,000 to 8,000 pound concrete lid off of a 20-foot deep duct. Just whoop. And then it took all the manhole covers on down to the swimming pool. My fear, and this is a fear, these are 20-foot ducts. The manhole openings, and I was down there today, queuing it in again, they're either 10 or 12 feet square, but the manhole coverings are in the center, and they have no runged ladder to get out of the pit. If the manhole cover is off of the pit, which is going to happen, because the project was under-engineered, there's too much water for the system. And if the sewer lids are not there, and if someone falls in, they're dead, because they're going to get sucked out to the Kansas River. There's no ladders to get out of the vaults. They have to put extension ladders down in. I've spoken with several, they could get in trouble, but I've spoken with several construction personnel conveyed about the new concrete ducts, and whoever in the engineering firm was that designed it, it's under-engineered. They should have liability insurance where the city attorneys can go after these guys, because it's just really, really sad what the outcome of all this is. My fear as a construction superintendent is for public safety. And this is not a joke. This is like a warning. You've all been warned here tonight that if somebody gets sucked down one of these manholes, I don't know, where do you go? Court? Does the family of that individual sue all of you? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners and staff. It's so nice to see you this evening. My name is Bonnie Lowe. I'm the CEO of the Lawrence Chamber of Commerce. I just want to thank you for your leadership and thoughtful approach throughout the process of hiring our new city manager. He's very qualified, and I thought 7:30 this morning was a great time to get up and watch your meeting, so congratulations on the work that you've done. This decision comes at a critical time for our community with numerous projects underway. In addition, significant economic development efforts are being advanced by the city and community partners, including the Chamber and Economic Development Corporation of Lawrence and Douglas County. It's certainly a fun time and exciting time to be in Lawrence, Kansas. I felt, from my perspective, the search firm did an excellent job of recruiting applicants and thoroughly vetting them. It is also clear that considerable time and effort were invested in determining an appropriate compensation and benefits package for our new city manager. Your commitment to being good stewards of public resources and maintaining fiscal responsibility does not go unnoticed, and I understand we're talking about a great deal of money, but it came after a great deal of research and conversation, I am sure, from your vantage point. Count on the Chamber and EDC to be supportive partners as we transition to our new city manager. We look forward to a productive future marked by continued economic growth, opportunity, and community vitality. Thank you so much for serving.
Thank you.
Holly Krebs, 66046. In May, the Commission reviewed the Land Development Code at its one-year anniversary. And in response, many community members expressed concerns that the city's code currently allows owners of industrial zone properties in Lawrence to construct data centers by right without Commission approval or public hearing. Additionally, the city code has no use-specific regulations on data center development. The code does not have a framework to evaluate or mitigate the effects of data centers on our community. It offers no definition for data centers, and it sets no limits on facility size, energy or water use, noise, lighting, or thermal emissions. Data center development is accelerating across northeastern Kansas, driven by Senate Bill 98, which created 20-year tax exemptions for qualifying projects. Given nationwide bipartisan concerns about data center development, and given the pace at which communities in the region have been receiving data center proposals, the Coalition for Collaborative Governance and many Lawrence residents believe there is an urgent need to pause this allowance in the city's code promptly to avoid potentially undesired developments in our community. Multiple counties in the region have passed moratoriums, and others are considering them. Lawrence stands out as the only community in the region that names data centers as a permitted use explicitly and allows them by right with no use-specific standards. The commission directed staff to bring back some information about data centers, but we know city staff's time is in high demand. So our coalition researched this policy issue, wrote a report, and drafted an ordinance which we've submitted to you so we could offer a timely solution to this issue. Our coalition requests that you promptly enact this moratorium on the development and construction of data centers in Lawrence that would remain in effect for up to 3 years or until the commission adopts a permanent regulatory framework through a text amendment to the Land Development Code. This moratorium would pause all current data center applications and disallow new ones. And this would provide city staff and the city commission adequate time to engage the community about this issue and to research, develop, and propose data center regulations. This approach is consistent with actions taken by many Kansas counties facing similar development pressures and would mitigate community tensions about data centers, which have been present in many other locales. 54 people have written to the commission in just the last few days requesting that you pass this moratorium, and many others in our community support this recommendation too, including many in this room. If you'd like to all raise your hands if you're here to support the data center moratorium, please do so. Thank you very much. Ultimately, this moratorium would protect our community. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, City Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor. Thank you. I'm Samuel Carter, 66046. So why I wanted to come tonight. Like many people in this community, you know, I've struggled with housing many different times in my life, and I think you hear people each week tell you their own stories about how they struggle with housing. And, you know, I recognize that a lot of that is outside of your control, right? But I do believe you also have a great deal of control over the options and choices that people have, the options that are available to them. So I wanted to bring this up. This here is a website. It collects data from the census. The census itself collects building permit data, and they've been doing it for decades. You know, it's run by professional statisticians. It is a very trusted, reliable source. And from this graph, this is actually a better one, probably units. You can see how, in some respects, like a declining trend in just the residential units that haven't built over time, right? So, but you really see it, I think you really see it starting around 2006. I think you see it more when you go by just the number of buildings per capita. There's a sharp drop after the 2006 Land Development Code passed, right? You see the 2 units just disappeared, right? That's housing that just like wasn't available. So this is a huge problem, right? This is a problem that's been 20 years brewing. So I think that the big question, of course, obviously is, well, we just passed the Land Development Code, right? And we kind of all knew that this was a problem. So the question is, well, will the new Land Development Code solve this? And I think in some respects, maybe it's too early to tell, but I also know that the early results are not very encouraging. There just hasn't been that much that's been built. And I also know that there are parts of the code that just like, you know, it's really complicated. It just, there are parts that kind of, you have hidden kind of anti-density measures in the code, like R2, right? It's the biggest chunk of residential land in Lawrence has a maximum dwelling units of six dwelling units per acre. And that's just so low density that, you can allow like cluster housing, for instance, like technically allow it, but you won't be able to visit and build it. I'm not a builder, but I'm really invested in making sure that there's enough housing. It's a generational problem, and I know it'll take a long time, but I think it's just so urgent that I really want to press a kind of pro-housing bias upon you that it can actually provide a lot of relief for a lot of people in the community. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Dominique, zip code 66049. I just wanted to also lend support about the idea of a data center moratorium, and I'd like to propose a very specific action that the Commission could take tonight, maybe later when you're amending your agenda, if you would want to, is to direct staff to review the draft moratorium, adjust language as needed with legality or anything that is technical, because I don't know law, but when looking at the moratorium that was drafted, I took information from different counties that already had passed the moratorium, so I do believe there is probably some sound legal defense in those already, or we would have seen some sort of lawsuits. But I do encourage, if the staff does review it, to keep Section 3 in, because it specifically prevents anything that might have already come in as an application to proceed further until we just get regulation. And again, I just want to emphasize that a moratorium would be temporary, up to the discretion of the Commission, and it is a neutral action that does not allow or disallow data centers in the long term. It is something that gives our staff the much needed time to do their due diligence. I know staff is under a lot of burden right now, which is one of the reasons I wanted to kind of do some of the back work, as not to take their job or to imply that they don't do their job or anything like that, but like as an assistance to say, I can maybe offer some guidance in this. And as a citizen, to kind of ease that burden off, to make it a little bit easier, because I think the moratorium is well within the Commission's jurisdiction. There is nothing, and I don't believe that any of the commissioners would have a big hubbubaloo against it, or this is going to be like something that is going to be as deranged as some of the arguments and like everything that we see in our surrounding sister counties and in our cities. And so my concern is, when I see some of the stuff on Facebook, I'm seeing a lot of misinformation. I'm seeing a lot of scared information. I just don't want us to have to devote some of our time and resources to more important things that we need to solve in our community, to something that is not really an issue. And I believe that the reason that there hasn't been any action by the county or the city is because we do believe this is probably a non-issue when it comes to our constituents, that this is kind of like a no-brainer moment where we would not really want to have like 1,000-acre hyperscale data center in our arena. So I think that would be like a very specific actions to direct the staff to bring this back on the next agenda after they have had time to review, because they would have 2 weeks to review the language. And then at that time, the City Commission can put it on the consent agenda, and then we could go from there. And if you guys wanted to pull it off for public comment, we could have that discussion at a later time. And then that way we can understand and kind of plan for maybe the appetite that is in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominique.
Hi, I'm Iris Craver. I live in North Lawrence. I sent this information to y'all today by email, but I want to read it again here in the public forum. The Kansas Farmers Union, I'll just say that again. The Kansas Farmers Union has put out a statement about data centers, and their policy opposes, I'm reading this verbatim from their website, the development of data centers that increase local electricity rates, cause brownouts, contaminate or deplete water supplies, or exacerbate contamination of water supplies. They also oppose the siting of data centers on productive soils. Okay, North Lawrence. They also oppose subsidies or tax credit breaks for construction and operation of data centers. They also oppose non-disclosure agreements regarding data centers. So as a very proud North Lawrencian, I strongly urge not just a moratorium, but never on that beautiful land north of my neighborhood. Ever. Never. Ever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Tad Kramar from Big Springs, Douglas County, Kansas, and I'm asking you to please enact a formal moratorium on cryptocurrency mining and data centers until you have time to study, consider, and adopt appropriate regulations. Otherwise, the city risks protracted, very expensive litigation if a developer alleges that the city currently does not prohibit such development and sues the city. Such litigation would be a terrible waste of city resources at the expense of city taxpayers. Cryptocurrency mining requires vast amounts of energy and water, which is wasted in producing a speculative product with no community benefits and that is subject to extreme volatility and risk, especially susceptible to scams. Cryptocurrency mining's massive energy demands pose significant risks to grid stability and retail electricity rates, and crypto mining operations can produce substantial air, water, and noise pollution while creating very few jobs. I hope you ultimately decide to ban cryptocurrency mining in Lawrence. Data centers also require vast amounts of energy and water and produce substantial noise while also creating minimal jobs. While certain data centers might produce some tangible benefits in limited circumstances, please take time to prepare regulations that ensure data centers would not cause energy rate increases to the public by, for example, requiring data centers to provide most of their own energy from renewable sources. Regulations should also require them to recycle and reuse their water using a closed-loop cooling system so that overall water demands are limited, and require effective noise proofing and substantial setbacks from structures, especially residential. These are just some issues to consider, but you need time to consider them, and you need to get a moratorium enacted soon before someone sues. So I really encourage you to enact a moratorium as soon as possible on cryptocurrency mining and data centers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Like this is John M. 66049. I'm going to switch topics. By the way, it's nice to do this in the daylight. Regarding budget presentations, the June 2nd preliminary budget presentation and the one before, and probably considerably before that, is not a complete representation of the budget. I think we need to see the totality of all the elements of the budget to verify that it's balanced. For transparency, the city should present the budget holistically, not piecemeal over several agenda items. A budget agenda item in a totality would include the following: the revenue sources, which includes taxes, fees and charges, revenue from services such as permits, license, and utility fees. We have not heard anything about the utility fees charged through the water and sewer facility. There's a de facto franchise fees that runs between 6.8 and 4.2 million. That doesn't come up in our budget presentations. Grants, I don't believe I've ever seen an explicit list, total list within the budget. Other income, fines, investment income. Don't recall seeing investment income. The county presents it, how much interest the money that's put aside earns. Planned expenditures, which we see part of, costs associated with day-to-day operations. Salaries, you've heard a lot from the coalition on salaries. We haven't really discussed the alternatives presented by the coalition. Maintenance costs, materials, etc. Capital expenditures, such as public buildings. You want to buy a new one? That should show up in the budget. Nothing about the purchase of that building across the street. Public services we hear about. Debt obligations. To me, that's a big missing piece in the budgets that are presented. Existing debt totals, all of it. New debts that are planned. Repayment schedules. You've heard some from the coalition on that too, but nothing shows up in the recurring presentation of budgets. What the run-out rates are, including interest payments and principal repayments. Without seeing the complete budget, presented in the context of all its pieces, the public who defends particular aspects of services People want stuff, of course. They don't want to see it cut, but they can't understand the cost of services without seeing the budget in its totality. They don't know what they're giving up. They don't know what they're paying. The Balancing Act didn't present a complete budget, and various agenda presentations, I've said, have not presented complete budgets in all its parts. Both you and the public deserve to see it in total. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Eric Hyde, 66046. I just came here today to talk about, well, I've asked questions if I'm even allowed to talk on this. It's on the ordinance. Am I allowed to talk on that?
Which ordinance?
The ordinance 10217. Do I have to wait till later to talk on that?
I don't remember what.
It's D4.
Oh, yes, that's on the consent agenda.
Do I talk?
You can talk about that now since it's on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Unless it's going to be pulled. Okay.
I just want to say that I read through the ordinance. It's about income levels for, making it against the law here to judge someone based on their income level for it to be assisted with housing and stuff. I just want to say it's kind of a theatrical. It's kind of a charade. I understand why you're doing it, but I don't have any notes. I don't know why I'm looking at my phone, but it's null and void anyway. And I think this is kind of why we have a problem in Lawrence, is because some people in our government are playing along with this theatrical business, this charade business of we have the power over the state. And, it's important to look at income levels of people that live places that want to rent or something, where they're getting their income from. I mean, that's what the ordinance is about. And you don't just want to bring in criminals or something like that. So that's really all I wanted to mention. Affordable housing, sure, we need to freeze affordable housing. We already have plenty of affordable housing. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Carol Kummer, 66049. I strongly oppose the data center development in Lawrence. While I support reasonable economic growth, data centers present uniquely severe strains on our local resources without providing the corresponding community benefits that justify their presence. Number one, a resource strain. These facilities require an unsustainable volume of local utilities. Data centers are notoriously power hungry and consume millions of gallons of water daily for cooling. Our local electrical grid and water infrastructure should prioritize our residential needs, sustainable growth, and local businesses, not cooling massive servers for out-of-state tech corps. Two, minimal job growth. The economic return for Lawrence residents is incredibly low. While construction creates temporary jobs, a finished data center operates largely on automation. It creates very few permanent full-time jobs while occupying vast tracts of valuable industrial land that could be otherwise housing businesses with high local employment. Three, quality of life and pollution. The environmental and quality of life impact on neighboring Lawrence's residents is unacceptable. The continuous 24/7 low-frequency hum of industrial cooling fans creates significant noise pollution, while intense perimeter security lighting disrupts local wildlife and nearby neighborhoods. Lawrence deserves development that aligns with our community values, protects our natural resources, and builds a resilient local economy. I urge our city commissioners to enact a moratorium on data center development and construction that would remain in effect for 3 years or until the city commission adopts a use-specific regulation through a text amendment to our Lawrence Land Development Code. Thank you for your time, leadership, and consideration of our community's future.
Thank you. I know we have one person online. There's probably some other people who want to speak. Sherry, why don't we bring the one person over line, and then we'll have it's still about 15 or 12 minutes after this speaker, if other people want to speak. We'll pull the one.
Stephen Watts.
I thank you. There's so many issues to opine on. Let me first remind you that the town funds the salary of the Lawrence Chamber of Commerce Executive Director. So why shouldn't this person come before you and, kiss your backside? It's not dissimilar from what's going on in Washington. Talking about the data centers, well, the data centers must serve the communities that power them. And that's Lawrence. So you guys need as much time as you need to think about that. They act for us. Next, let's talk about the Town Police Review Board. 2 years ago, July, August, there was a dog and pony show with the Department of Justice with respect to certain matters, and there were promises made during that which centered around the public being involved in the creation of police policy inside the policy and review manual existing inside our department. That hasn't gone on, and you guys have been reminded of this several times. Why do we have these presentations and these, quote, community involvements when the after effect is they just throw the stuff away? I have sent an email to the new town commission, the new town chief of police, that being the newly hired city manager, and let us hope that there can be accountability from not just the police department, from all of these other departments, where our town can spend $50,000 a year to provide coffee for staff, but it can't keep a community swimming pool a community wading pool open in South Park at $20,000 repair costs. It is absolutely incredible when you look at how these monies are spent in the final analysis. Thank you.
Thank you. The speakers in the room. Okay. Sure, someone wants. Got 10 minutes.
You guys have more speakers?
Yeah, if you had, come on up.
My name is John Chaffee. My family's been long rooted in Lawrence, Kansas. According to my mother, my grandma was the first female pharmacist in Lawrence, and she continued to serve Lawrence for 50 years. As a pharmacist, very well that she helped you with a cold or to get past an ailment. It is infuriating that you don't need to look past the United Kingdom for data points on why data centers are not healthy for a community. They are not healthy for growth. It is an abomination to think that it's going to add jobs. My dad has been a programmer for a severe amount of years, even when they used to take up entire rooms for a computer. They have whittled those jobs down. You don't need to look past the tens of thousands of jobs that have been laid off in the last year alone for production's sake and AI's growth, and it's untethered. Lawrence used to be considered the 7th smartest city in the nation back in the 90s. I don't know any of you lived here that long, but it used to be. That meant that it was making smart decisions. Smart decisions have not been happening. There are knee-jerk reactions to the homeless population and what to do with it. And I know via other things that it wasn't all your fault, but again, knee-jerk reactions. And now you want a knee-jerk reaction to an AI data center? And is this the council that signed NDAs? Can you answer yes or no? No? Okay. All right. So this is not healthy for society, is not healthy for growth, and is not healthy for Lawrence. Things that need to be brought in for Lawrence are not AI data centers or battery storage or anything like that until proper research is done. Cheap things are normally done for contract work. Anything that's military grade was provided to the military by the cheapest bidder. I hope you guys take more into consideration than just some salesman that says, I don't know. That is bull. It's bull. Too many years has this been going on, and they think we're stupid. And this is not true. Be smart. Lawrence has so many natural resources at its disposal. It doesn't need an AI data center on top of it. We have the wetlands. Stop targeting the wetlands. It can be its own tourist attraction if you let it. If you actually center the commerce on something that's important to the city, important to its identity. And an AI center is not important to its identity. It is just joining the train. And that train's going to crash.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you all for being here. If there's no other comments, we will adjourn for just 6 minutes, and then we'll start our meeting back up at 5:45 with the consent agenda, and then move on to our regular agenda. So thank you all for being here, and we'll be in recess until 5:45.